Deuteronomy chapter 11. Therefore ye shall love the Lord your God, and keep his charge, and his statutes, and his ordinances, and his commandments always. And know you this day, for I speak not with your children, that have not known, and that have not seen the chastisement of the Lord your God, his greatness, his mighty hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works, which he did in the midst of Egypt, unto Pharaoh the king of Egypt, unto all his land, and what he did unto the army of Egypt, unto their horses, and unto their chariots, and how he made the water of the Red Sea to overflow them, as they pursued after you, and how the Lord hath destroyed them unto this day, and what he did unto you in the wilderness, unto you, until you came unto this place, and what he did unto Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab the son of Reuben, how the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and their tents, and every living substance that followed them, in the midst of all Israel. But your eyes have seen all the great work of the Lord which he did. Therefore you shall keep all the commandment which I command you this day, that you may be strong, and go in and possess the land, whether you go over to possess it, and that you may prolong your days upon the land which the Lord swore unto your fathers to give unto them and to their seed, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land where you go in to possess it is not as the land of Egypt, from where you came out, where you did sow your seed, and did water it with your foot, as the garden of herbs. But the land where you go over to possess it is a land of hills and valleys, and it drinketh water as the rain of heaven comes down, a land which the Lord your God cares for. The eyes of the Lord your God are always upon it, from the beginning of the year even unto the end of the year. And it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I will give the rain of your land in its season, the former rain and the latter rain, that you mayest gather in your corn, and your wine, and your oil. And I will give grass in your fields for your cattle, and you shall eat and be satisfied. Take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside, and serve other gods, and worship them. And the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven, so that there shall be no rain, and the ground shall not yield her fruit, and you shall perish quickly from off the good land which the Lord gives you. Therefore shall you lay up these my words in your heart and in your soul, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand. Now it shall be for frontlets between your eyes. You shall teach them your children, talking of them when you sittest in your house, and when you walkest by the way, and when you liest down, and when you risest up. And you shall write them upon your doorpost of your house, and upon your gates, that your days may be multiplied, and the days of your children upon the land which the Lord swore unto your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens above the earth. For if you shall diligently keep all this commandment which I command you, to do it, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to cleave unto him, then will the Lord drive out all these nations from before you, and you shall dispossess nations greater and mightier than yourselves. Every place whereon the sole of your foot shall tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and Lebanon, from the river Euphrates, even unto the hinder sea shall be your border. There shall no man be able to stand against you. The Lord your God shall lay the fear of you and the dread of you upon all the land that you shall tread upon, as he has spoken unto you. Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you shall hearken unto the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you this day. And the curse, if you shall not hearken unto the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside out of the way which I command you this day, to go after other gods, which you have not known. And it shall come to pass, when the Lord your God shall bring you into the land where you go to possess it, if that you shall set the blessing upon Mount Gerizim, and the curse upon Mount Ebal. Are they not beyond the Jordan, behind the way of the going down of the sun, in the land of the Canaanites that dwell in the Arabah, over against Gilgal, beside the terebinths of Morah? For you are to pass over the Jordan, to go in to possess the land which the Lord your God gives you, and you shall possess it, and dwell therein. And you shall observe to do all the statutes and the ordinances which I set before you this day. That was chapter 11. All right, we're going to find out. We basically just continuing from chapter 10, rolling along. God's telling us, not God's telling us, Moses is reiterating. Therefore you shall love the Lord your God and keep his charge and his statutes, his ordinances, his commandments always. We're dwelling on this. God's dwelling on this with us. Why? Because this is the greatest lesson we've got to learn. See, if we want to go in and possess the land which the Lord God gives us, we have to obey his statutes. We've seen, or we're going to see, these great wonders. God's already shown us things. He's already showing us. He's going to show us. If we stay in his word, we stay learning, God's going to teach us things. See? God's going to show us things. He's going to witness. He's going to use witnesses and show us he's God. He can do these things. Nobody else can. We only live just a few years. God's eternal. See, he's got the thousands of years it takes to punish. He's got the thousands of years it takes to show. See, he can wait because he knows the end of all things. We're going to learn these things. See, God's already telling us, verse 4, remember what I did to the army, what I did to Pharaoh, how I made the waters of the sea overflow them as they pursued after you. It doesn't matter. God's going to be there fighting for you. He's going to be there behind you. He's going to surround you. So, verse 6 tells us what he did. The power of God, how he opened up the earth. He can open up the earth and just swallow up and make your remembrance be gone. You're gone. God has the ability to erase as well as he has the ability to create. Verse 8, once again, God's reiterating, therefore shall you keep all the commandments which I command you this day, that you can be strong and go in and possess the land. God wants you to go in and possess this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. God teaches us that this ain't like where we're coming from. This ain't like the place he's bringing us out of, where we had to work, toil. See, but this is a place that drinks water as the rain of heaven comes down. See, this is a place God has got his eye on constantly. Why? He wants to bring you there. He's got his eye on this land. He's the promised land. See? Verse 13 says, and it shall come to pass, if you shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day, to love the Lord your God, to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. He says, I will give you the rain for your land in the season, the former rain and the latter rain. Give you that which you need, as you need it. We got to hearken to the commandments. Going to lay out the blessing, promises. Verse 16 tells us, so take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived. Your heart be deceived, and you turn aside. God says you turn aside and serve these other gods and worship them. God's going to hold us to this. See, we got to have him first, lest we make God angry. God says, therefore you shall lay up these words in your heart, verse 18, and in your soul. This is the law. I'm going to put it in the ark. See, just as Moses took the 2 tablets, put them in the ark. We're going to take this and we're going to put it in our ark, in our heart, in our soul. And they're going to be before us constantly. Moses goes through and reiterates this. See, we learned this already. We're going to put them on our hands so we can see them constantly before us in our work. They're going to be like blinders on our face so we only see these things. We're going to teach them to our children. See, constantly teaching them to our children. And everything we do, we teach them. Put them on our doorposts and on our gates. Where we come in and where we go out. We're going to put these commandments there, these 10 teachings, constantly before our eyes, the obedient law, bringing us into a land flows with milk and honey. Because if you'll do this, if you'll, 22, keep all this commandment which I command you to do it, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, and to cleave unto him, then will the Lord drive out these nations from before you. See? God's going to do away with these nations that have all this idolatry before you. He's going to take away all this, because this is the snare, this is the trap. These false gods, these false understandings, these false images of God. We have to understand the true God, see, and how God meant for us to come to understanding. God's going to give us every place we've ever been, every place your soul, your foot ever tread, see, because he's prepared you, he's placed you in this place for a purpose. 26 says he sets before you this day a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you shall listen unto the commandments of the Lord your God. The curse, if you will not listen unto the commandments of the Lord your God. There's nothing hard to understand. A blessing, if you listen. A curse, if you don't. See? 28 says, but turn aside out of the way which I command you. See, you turn. God doesn't turn. You have turned. Magic word. Turn. Turn you back. See? Turn around. Return. Come back into my law. Come back into my grace. Come back into my teachings. See, God says, you stray. How do you think you can go find understanding? You have to return to my teaching. See? And teach this. This is your wisdom. This is your understanding. In all the nations where I send you. No matter where you go, this is your understanding. And your days will be long. You'll have understanding and wisdom. And it'll come to pass when the Lord your God will bring you into the land where you go to possess it, that you shall set the blessing upon Mount Gerizim and the curse upon Mount Ebal. We're going to get into this a little bit later. It becomes what the children do here. See, this is where they actually make the agreement. They seal it up. For you are to possess, pass over the Jordan, go in to possess the land which the Lord your God gives you, and you shall possess it, and dwell therein, and you shall observe to do all the statutes and the ordinances which I set before you this day. God's telling you, this is going to come to pass. It's going to happen. See? How long are we going to suffer God to bring this around? How long are we going to deny ourselves that which God promises us? How long are we going to be disobedient? How long are we going to suffer the curse by not listening? When are we going to receive the blessing? By listening. By listening to the commandments. By listening to the basic instruction God's already put in your heart and in your mouth. And we're going to find this out. He's going to tell us, I put it in your heart and in your mouth. I ain't made this hard for you to understand. You already understand it. He's been dealing with you since you was a child. He's been dealing with you since you come out of your mother's womb. We're going to find this out later. See, we're going to find out everything, because God, we're walking with God. See, He's going to teach us all these things, because we're looking for the blessing, because we're going to listen to God's commandments. One by one, we're going to apply them to our life. We're not going to allow the devourer any more room. We're tired of suffering. We want true blessing. We want true understanding. We want to know what the truth is. We're going to apply it. We're going to look for it. We're going to be diligent. We're going to arrive at our goal. And we're going to. God says you will. You will. You will. It's better, and easier if we just do it now instead of waiting. If God chastises us, just like Father chastises His Son. But, in time, we can do it with instruction, or we can do it, make the mistake, learn from suffering, and then do it, and waste a lot of time, which we find out this is what already has happened. We have an example. See, we already see this has happened. We know it, that this is what will happen. Take the hand of God. Listen diligently. Keep all this commandment. We're trying not to make God mad. We're trying to get to former rain. We're trying to get our latter rain. We're trying to get to where God, this land, God's got His eye on. See, I got my eye on it too. All right, we're going to go to chapter 12.